guys? My name is Jesse Hunt, and this is my very first podcast episode. That's a lot. I've actually recorded 8 episodes so far. I've had 8 different guests on. They've all been great. I can't wait to share them with you, but I wanted the very first episode to be one that I give a bit of a background on what the show's about and a bit of a lead up, so we're not just jumping right into it. The show is called The Road Traveled. It comes from a play on the popular term, the road less traveled. You've probably heard of it. But it is all about the human experience and people that are doing awesome things with their lives, which is where the road traveled comes through, where the name, the road traveled, comes from, because it is all about the roads that we all choose to take in our life, the experiences that we gain through them, and how they form and shape who we are today. I'm new to this, so I might mess up a few times. I'm not used to not being able to edit around things, but that's okay. That's what I like about the podcast medium, is it doesn't have to be perfect all the time. It is all based in conversation and good times. So anyways, I want to talk a little bit about what inspired me to make this particular podcast. I'm a filmmaker. I live in Toronto, Ontario, and just through that alone, I've had a ton of really cool, awesome experiences. But there's one thing that happened to me early on in life, not too early on, about 8 years ago. I was in film school, and I wasn't feeling 100%, but I just thought that I was staying up too late, going to too many parties, living that college lifestyle. But I always felt run down. I always felt tired. I was taking lots of naps. My parents thought I had mono. Anyways, turns out I hadn't been to a doctor in about 8 years. I'm just going to cut that there because I messed the story up. Anyways, I hadn't been to a doctor in about 2 years. I actually had a really bad experience with a new doctor. And so I decided that I was going to go to another one. And I didn't end up going to a doctor for 2 years. So what happened was I went to this new doctor, and he just wanted to kind of get a lay of the land, so to speak. So he sent me for a whole bunch of tests. A couple of weeks later, I got the results. He brought me into his office. He sat me down in the chair, and it wasn't in an examination room, so I knew something was kind of weird. And he told me that I appear to be in kidney failure at that time. And based on the majority of people that I talk to, nobody really knows what kidneys do, or why they are so important. I know I didn't. And so it took me a little bit of time to wrap my head around what that meant. And same goes with my family. We all didn't really understand what it meant. So what ended up happening was I needed to drop out of the program that I was in because I was quite sick. My kidneys were failing pretty quickly. And 6 months later, I ended up going on dialysis while my doctors and my family and I looked for possible donation avenues. It was a very tough decision to go on dialysis because you are giving up a lot of your freedom. It was 3 times a week for 4 hours in the morning that I had to go. So you can imagine a young filmmaker just trying to find their way, kind of get up and going, learn as much as they can, get as much experience as they can, not being able to do that because you always had these appointments that you could not miss. Otherwise, you were at serious risk. So for about 6 months, every other day, I was going and sitting in a chair for 4 hours while my blood was being filtered. Don't get me wrong. I'm incredibly thankful for that opportunity that I had to go do that. It was, just up the road from my house. It was very close by. I didn't have to travel far like a lot of people do. It kept me going. It's a tough life when you're on dialysis, but it keeps you alive. So that's the main thing. And And I'm thankful for that. And lucky for me, lucky enough for me, I was only on dialysis for 6 months because um, my dad got approved to be a kidney donor, which is awesome. Uh, when it was getting close to the time of the surgery, probably a month out, my doctor sat my dad and I down. And he said that he said that he felt that the surgery was too big of a risk because my dad and I weren't a close enough match. But what he was able to do was some of his other patients were going through a transplant also. And what happened was my dad's kidney matched the person that needed a kidney on the other end better than it matched me. And that person's donor, his kidney matched me, like my blood type and all those things, better than it matched the guy he was going to initially donate to. So what happened was we did a 4-way swap, which at the time wasn't a very widespread procedure. It had been done in the States a few times, and I think it had only been done in Canada 1 or 2 times. This was the first time that it had been done in the city that I had my transplant in, Hamilton, Ontario. And so there was all kinds of news, media outlets kind of surrounding it and following the story. Anyways, fast forward a little bit. This all worked out. The transplant worked really, really well. In fact, my doctor to this day, 8 years later, says that I am a boring patient, and that is a good thing. I have had very little things go wrong. I've had almost nothing go wrong. Uh, Anything that's gone wrong has been kind of self-induced. I've had food poisoning a few times, which is very bad for somebody with a kidney transplant. But aside from that, everything's gone relatively normal. I've been, I've been able to get right back into my life, pick up where I left off, chase down my dreams, and, pursue this career as a filmmaker, which has been really, really awesome. As you can imagine, that sort of experience would probably change your perspective on a few things, which it 100% did. It definitely made me appreciate different things like family, any relationship that you have. It makes you appreciate time a little bit more because everybody's guilty of taking it for granted, and it's not in a negative way. You just get busy, and that's what happens. But all of a sudden, when those things get taken away from you, when you don't know what is going to come in the future, when there is potential that you're going to be hooked up to a dialysis machine 3 times a week for 4 hours, you don't. It's difficult to make plans. Let's put it that way, because you can't really travel. As much as the dialysis keeps you alive, it makes you feel like crap. So I would go home after 4 hours and I'd sleep for the rest of the day. You're constantly tired. And so getting to experience those things and meet the people that I did and see the process of what it took to get me through that illness and out on the other side has definitely left a lasting impact on my life. I think that there are things that I am conscious of, and there are things that I am probably not conscious of, things that I realize even to this day. Things will happen to me, and I'll be like, you know what? I think I'm probably a more patient person because of going through that. Or I have a different perspective on this particular situation because of the things that I went through. This doesn't get, I mean, people have asked me this before, but I think I've heard this asked to a lot of different people that have gone through kind of intense times in their life. If you had the choice, would you go through it again? That's tough. That's a heavy question. That's a loaded question. I really don't know. I like to say that yeah, I would probably do it again because, in a lot of ways, it changed the way my family is. We are all incredibly healthy people now. We have, because of that situation, everybody changed their diet, their lifestyle. Everybody's very conscious of that. we're closer because of it. We have a bond and a relationship that, like, I couldn't have gotten through that time without my parents. I literally would be dead without my dad. Maybe not dead, but, pretty close to it, without my dad being willing to donate a vital organ. And, various other things. I think I am better at managing stress levels now. I'm better at not getting overworked or over exaggerating situations that may arise, just because I know now that I can handle much, much more. And it's interesting now because I have this new passion, this new outlook on the projects that I want to do. I was in a meeting today about a project that I'm currently working on for a healthcare organization, and I was able to connect with the creative in a way that I'm not sure other people would have been able to, just because of my experiences. The people I was in the meeting with were so intrigued by my experiences and how I was able to relate to what we're trying to capture in these particular commercials. And I am so happy that I am able to do that. It is a different level of passion for the projects that I want to do. And I'm not sure that I would have that had I not gone through the experience that I did 8 years ago. And so realistically, that story, that experience, the things that I went through are all things that, sorry, I just hit the Siri button on my computer and now it's, realistically, those things that I went through, those experiences that I had, were the inspiration behind this podcast. Now, the best part about the podcast is the people I'm talking with, they come from all different avenues of life. Not everybody has the same experience. Not everybody works in the same industry. Not everybody has some intense healthcare story. Everybody has a bit of a unique outlook on things based on the experiences that they've had and the experiences that they continue to have. And those are the kind of people that I'm looking to have on the podcast. And so far, I've had some very interesting people, and I'm excited to share the conversations that I've had with them. So I feel like I've talked about myself enough. You kind of get an insight into where I'm coming from, my story, the things that I'm interested in, and the direction that I'm hoping to take this podcast. I'm really looking forward to sharing with you. I'm really looking forward to sharing with the people that I have on it and seeing where we can take this. Ultimately, the goal is to learn from each other, to grow as humans, to learn from other people's experience, and to inspire others to maybe do the same thing, if not to chase down the things that they want to do with their lives. So with all that being said, welcome to the show. I'm glad that you're here. I hope you enjoy. And that's the first episode. I think that it went well. Thanks for checking out the show. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you got something out of it. As I mentioned before, I've done about 7 or 8 of these episodes with some really great guests that I'm very excited to release in the near future. I'll be releasing this on the majority of the podcasting sites, Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, that sort of thing, as well as the video series on YouTube. So no matter how you choose to consume your media, you should be able to find us. Well, thanks for being here. My name's Jesse Hunt, and this is The Road Traveled. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next time.